I myself am Gunakar, Assistant Professor of Zoology, Government Degree College, Siddipet, Telangana State. Today, let us discuss Peripatus structure and affinities. It is not only terrestrial, nocturnal, but it is predaceous and carnivorous animal, and it was first described by Gilding in 1826. He has obtained this species from Saint Vincent in the Antilles, and he regarded it as mollusk due to its slug-like antennae and moist skin. But later it was discovered from other parts of Neotropical region and Australia and South Africa. Later, when Mosley in 1874 discovered tracheae in the Peripatus, so now it is placed in the class Onychophora in the phylum Arthropoda. Now its actual position, what is its actual position? Let us discuss at the end of this our discussion. Let us see at the end of our discussion. Now, the onychophorans have been described as connecting link between Annelida and Arthropoda because they possess the similarities or affinities with both the groups. Now you can have a look at the Peripatus figure also. It is a worm-like animal, but not like that of the earthworm, because distinct leg-like structures are clearly visible here. See the legs here with segments, and these legs, they are resembling the parapodia of the polychaete animals, and the head appendages are also, they resemble parapodia, they resemble the polychaete animals. When Gilding in 1826 first described the Peripatus, he has obtained the specimen from Saint Vincent in the Antilles. I already told you. He regarded it as a mollusk due to the slug-like antennae and other features, slug-like antennae and moist skin. Later it was discovered from other parts like Australia, South Africa, etc. The animal was placed by different scientists in Annelida and Myriapoda of Arthropoda. In 1874, as I said just now, Mosley discovered tracheae in the Peripatus and placed it as a primitive class called Onychophora in the phylum Arthropoda. The Onychophora, the term is derived from two Greek words. Onychus means claw and phorus means bearing, means claw bearing animals. This Onychophora is most ancient group. It did not change much since the Cambrian period, and it is represented by about 12 genera and 70 species distributed in the southern hemisphere over the tropical parts in widely separated areas like Malaysia, the East Indies, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, Africa, South and Central America, West Indies, Mexico, etc. But the animal or onychophorans, not a single onychophoran was found north to the Tropic of Cancer. So all these animals, they are present now only in the southern hemisphere of the earth, and they provide an excellent example of discontinuous distribution. Now at present they are gradually going on the verge of extinction. As we had discussed just now, Peripatus is found in moist, warm and dark places. It is found in moist, warm and dark places under the rocks, stones, tree barks and logs, and in crevices of rocks, etc. It is terrestrial, nocturnal, predaceous, carnivorous, and feeding on the flies, termites, snails, worms, and other small animals. If we see the external morphology, it is a small caterpillar-like animal. It is commonly called as walking worm. It is commonly called as walking worm. Its skin is soft and velvety, and it is elongated animal, nearly cylindrical, almost cylindrical, and bilaterally symmetrical body. Its length is 2 to 8 centimeters long and many pairs of stumpy legs, and each leg is ending in two claws. Each leg is ending in two claws. A pair of claws are present. Because of that, the name Onychophora. And there is no definite external segmentation. That is indistinct external segmentation. Then no definite, that means numerous annuli or superficial lines present on the body. Now we can have a look at the superficial lines which are present on the body. You can see here this figure also. The many superficial lines are present, but these lines are not corresponding to the segments. So you can see the lines are present here, but these lines are not at all corresponding to the segments, because these are only external transverse lines, and these transverse lines bear numerous wart-like papillae armed with chitinous spine. And if we see the color of the onychophorans, especially the peripatus, is dark gray to brown in color, and body is divided into an indistinct head and an elongated trunk. And as there is no neck region, head cannot be divisible, cannot be distinguished clearly from the remaining trunk part. See, the head bears some structures, and among those structures, eyes, antennae, mouth, and oral papillae are the main ones. Here you can see the head bears certain structures, among which eyes are prominent, and there are one pair of simple eyes which are dorsal in position are present. And the head bears a pair of simple eyes dorsal in position. They resemble the eyes of annelids. Now coming to the antennae, there are one pair of antennae are present which are again dorsal, and this antennae are considered as first pair of appendages. See, you can see the antennae here clearly. So these are antennae, and these antennae represent the first pair of appendages. They are ringed and taper towards the tip. The ring bears numerous spines, and the free end of each antenna is covered with a spiny sheath. So you can have a look at this mouth. Mouth is present here. That is towards the ventral side. It is present on the mid-ventral surface of the head, and it is enclosed by a fleshy circular lip. And a pair of two small horny jaws or mandibles are present inside the mouth cavity. And these horny jaws represent the second pair of appendages. Each jaw is small, muscular, and stumpy, and it consists of two curved, pointed chitinous plates. The inner plate is toothed, and the outer one has concave edge. The free end of each jaw has a pair of sharp cutting blades, and these jaws are used for tearing or grinding the food material. Next structures in the head region are oral papillae. These oral papillae are again one pair, and these are very short, blunt outgrowths. They are very short, blunt outgrowths. Okay, and each oral papilla bear an aperture of slime gland, and this slime is ejected through the opening for about 50 centimeters distance in when the animal is irritated or in defense against the enemy, and the slime is ejected for the capturing of the prey also. On exposure to air, the slime hardens rapidly into threads. Now we can have a look on the figure how it is ejecting the slime. See, in this figure you can see the slime from the oral papillae are ejected outside, and this slime can go up to 50 centimeters distance, and as and when the slime is ejected outside and on exposure to the air, it becomes thread like and hold the prey on its place, and then slowly it swallows the prey. Now coming to the next part of the body, the trunk. The trunk is covered with thin and flexible chitinized skin, and it bears number of ridges with wart-like papillae. And this trunk consists ventrolaterally a series of about 14 to 43 pairs of legs, but the number of legs depends upon the species and as well as the sex and the age of the animal. Each stumpy leg bears 3 to 6 spiniferous pads. Let us have a look. So here this is the leg from the lateral view of the leg of Peripatus, and this the pads we can see spiniferous pads. These are the spiniferous pads, and I told you 3 to 6 spiniferous pads on which the leg rests when walking. And the foot, actually the leg has two parts. Actually this is the leg main portion, and in addition to that, attached to the spiniferous pads, there is a foot portion is also present. Actually when the worm is on, when the Peripatus is walking on the ground, this pads are touching the ground. And the foot is present, and this foot bears two sickle-shaped claws also. Let us have a look at two sickle-shaped claws. As it is a lateral view, we can see only one claw here, but I'll show you two claws structure here. Let me show you. Yeah, you can see here on the leg, small two claws are present here. So on either side, a pair of legs are present in opposite sides. And here the anus lying on the last portion of the trunk, and it is ventral, and genital aperture is also present just in front of the anus. So this is the anus, and genital aperture is the genital pore is present in front of the anus at the level of the last pair of legs. Now coming to the body wall. Body wall is typically annelidan type, and it consists of some layers. So we can see what are the layers that it is consisting of. First, outermost layer is the cuticle, and which is a thin, flexible, unlike that of the arthropods, and it is highly permeable, but it is rigid and covered with many tubercles, and these microscopic tubercles give the skin a velvety texture, and the flexible cuticle enables the animal to squeeze its body into very confining places. Just now we have discussed in the first starting that it hides itself under the damp and safe places, under the stones and under the crevices of the rocks and under the bark of the trees, like that. So it is hidden in that places, as it is a shy animal. Then coming to the next layer, below the cuticle there is a single layer, there is an epidermis which is formed by single layered cells, and actually this epidermis which is responsible for secreting the upper layer cuticle. And then coming to the dermis. Dermis is also a thin layer of connective tissue below the epidermis. Now below the dermis, we can see the actual musculature, and this musculature, like that of the annelids, there are circular muscles, outer circular muscles, and middle transverse or diagonal muscles, and inner longitudinal muscles are present, one below the other. And these muscles, whether it is circular or longitudinal or diagonal or transverse muscles, all these muscles are unstriated or unstriped, whereas we can see striated or striped muscles in the case of jaw muscles, which can move anterior to the posterior sides. The striated muscles are present only in the jaw muscles, but remaining other places musculature is unstriated or unstriped muscles. Now coming to the body cavity. Body cavity or coelom, it is not a true coelom, but it is a hemocoel, and it is lined by a layer of epithelium. True coelom is actually reduced to gonads and excretory organs as that of the arthropods. So the hemocoel is also can be seen in the arthropods. So in this case, the body cavity, in the case of body cavity, the peripatus or the onychophorans, they resemble the arthropods. And this the body cavity, actually it is divided, it has 4 compartments. One central compartment, 2 lateral, and in addition to this, 1 pericardial compartment is also present. And the central compartment is the largest and contains the alimentary canal in it, the reproductive organs, and the slime glands, whereas the lateral compartments are small and extend into the legs. Then the pericardium, the 4th compartment, in it includes the heart, and the true coelom is restricted to the gonadal cavities and as well as to the nephridia, that is excretory organs, just now I told. Now coming to the physiological structure or physiological part of the peripatus. Now let us start with the digestive system. The digestive system possesses a complete alimentary canal, that is, it starts with mouth and ends with the anus, and the mouth is situated at the base of prebuccal depression, and it is surrounded by a ring of oral papillae which form a preoral cavity. And on its roof, the mouth bears a prominent tongue, and in its lateral sides it bears claw-like jaws. And the mouth opens into the pharynx. Mouth leads into the pharynx. Then the pharynx is thick-walled and muscular. It is lined internally by thin chitin. Its wall is raised to increase the cavity, and it is followed by the esophagus. Then esophagus is followed by the stomach intestine. Combinedly it is called stomach intestine. Otherwise it is called as mesenteron, and which is the largest part of the alimentary canal. This is the largest part of the alimentary canal, and it is a straight tube lined internally by the ectoderm. It doesn't possess any cuticle, and it is the main site of digestion and absorption. So digestion and absorption takes place in the stomach intestine or mesenteron, and it leads into the rectum. And the rectum, otherwise called as hindgut, is a short, narrow terminal part of the intestine, and that opens outside through the anus. The rectum is lined internally by chitin. The anus is situated on the ventral side at the posterior end of the body. Just now we have seen in the figure. Now coming to the digestive gland. The digestive glands are a pair of salivary glands are considered as digestive glands, and these salivary glands are considered as modified nephridial tubes. And in some forms, a reservoir is also present, and maybe for the reserve storage of saliva. Then before going into the next system, let us have a look at the feeding mechanism and digestion. Actually, I we have already discussed that peripatus is carnivorous animal. It feeds on small invertebrates such as snail, insects and worms, especially the termites also. When a prey is detected, it is captured by ejecting the slime from the slime gland, and the prey is then cut into pieces by the mandibles, and saliva containing venous enzymes is poured over it. Then the soft parts of the prey are digested, and the nutritive fluid is drawn in by the suctorial action of the pharynx and the esophagus. Then the midgut, by the peristaltic action, the food carries posteriorly, and the cells of the midgut secrete a thin membrane around the food particles, and various juices are secreted by the midgut, and these juices penetrate the membrane and further digest the food. The digested food come out of the membrane and are absorbed by the absorptive cells present in the lining of the midgut, that is mesenteron, that is stomach intestine, and the wastage or undigested waste is carried into the rectum, and finally they discharge it from the anus. Then coming to the next system, respiratory system. The respiratory system possesses the respiratory organs as trachea, like that of the terrestrial arthropods. Trachea are present in all terrestrial arthropods, like the insects, especially the insects, and these trachea open outside through numerous spiracles. So what is the difference between the trachea of these onychophorans or peripatus as well as the other arthropods is that the trachea have a definite pattern of distribution within the body, and the spiracles, a definite number of spiracles are present in the case of arthropods. Whereas here in the peripatus and other onychophorans, the spiracles are stigmata, otherwise called as, they are numerous. Many number of spiracles are present spread over the body, and they are always open. So but whereas in the arthropods, the spiracles are definite in number and they are present at definite places, and they are not always open. There is a mechanism of closing of spiracles in the case of arthropods, but here in the case of onychophorans and peripatus, spiracles are always open. There is no mechanism of closing them. Then coming to the excretory system is mainly annelidan type, because the nephridia are the main excretory organs, and here this nephridiophore is present on the legs, and in some forms of this onychophora, coxal glands or crural glands are also present in the lateral compartments of the body cavity, and their ducts open on the lower surface of the legs, just outside the apertures of the excretory ducts. Then coming to the circulatory system. The circulatory system is an arthropod type, which is an open type, and then no blood vessels. Open type means no blood vessels are present, but blood sinuses are present, and throughout the length of the body, tubular heart is extended, and it is opened by valvular, that is valvular ostia are opened outside into the pericardial sinus. Then the blood is colorless, and the blood has phagocytic amoebocytes. The blood is colorless and contains phagocytic amoebocytes. The heart propels the blood forward into the general hemocoel. No other blood vessel is found. Next system, the nervous system. Nervous system is somewhat primitive type. It appears as a ladder. How it appears as a ladder, let us discuss now. And this nervous system mainly consists of suprapharyngeal ganglia. The suprapharyngeal ganglion is present, and this suprapharyngeal means above the pharynx. Above the pharynx there is a ganglion, and this ganglion is considered as a brain. And along with it, circumpharyngeal connectives are also present surrounding the pharynx, and these circumpharyngeal connectives, they join the brain with the ventral nerve cords. And again there are a pair of ventral nerve cords, but they show difference. They show difference with that of the annelids and as well as the arthropods. How they show differences? These ventral nerve cords, a pair of ventral nerve cords are present. Circle cords are widely apart from each other, and they go up to the end of the body, up to the terminal part of the trunk, and in between that the ventral nerve cords here and there, they are at the level of each leg, each pair of leg. There is a transverse commissure that connects the ventral nerve cords, and there is no ganglia. Ganglia are also not there. So, but the peripheral nerves arise from the suprapharyngeal ganglion, that is brain, and circmpharyngeal connectives, as well as ventral nerve cords here and there, and they supply the nerves to the other parts of the body at their areas. And then coming, the sense organs of peripatus are a pair of eyes, and this regarding the eyes we have already discussed. A pair of eyes are located on the head region, and in addition to that pair of eyes, sensory papillae and specialized sensory cells in the buccal cavity are present. Then the numerous sensory papillae are distributed all over the surface of the body, and each papilla consists of a seta and a group of sensory cells, and these help in determining air currents and act as tactile receptors. So the sensory papillae which are present in the body are acting as a tactile receptor, whereas there are sensory cells present in the antenna. They help in finding the way during locomotion. And again, in addition to these sensory cells in the sensory papillae, as well as in the antennae, the specialized sensory cells are also present in the buccal cavity, and which help to taste the food material when the animal takes the food. Then coming to the reproductive system. In the onychophorans, the sexes are separate and the reproductive organs are ciliated, like that of the annelids. That is, reproductive organ inside, they are lined by cilia. The gonads are tubular and paired, but they are opened with a single genital aperture. As we have earlier we have seen the structure of the genital aperture, which is midventrally on the just above the anus we have seen. Then the male generative organs are the male genital organs consist of a pair testis, and along with it a vas deferens and seminal vesicle are also present. This is followed on each side by long narrow vas deferens, vas efferentia, seminal vesicle, vas deferens are all present. The vasa differentia from the two sides unite to form a common median tube, the ejaculatory duct, and the proximal part is glandular and secretes a substance, forming complicated cases, and which enclose masses of sperms to form a spermatophore. And then the ejaculatory duct opens to the exterior on the ventral surface between the legs of the last pair of the legs. Whereas in the female, the ovaries are two elongated tubular structures, and they are situated in the posterior part of the body, and from each ovary arises an oviduct which run anteriorly and then bends to form a curved uterus. And these uteri are beaded in appearance. The two uteri fuse to form a common vagina or atrium, which opens to the exterior through a common genital pore, again just above the anus on the ventral side between the two last pair of legs. Then if we see the development is direct without any larval stage, and the young ones undergo molting. And in most of the onychophorans, and as well as most of the types of peripatus, they are viviparous or ovoviviparous. That means they give birth to the young ones directly, and whereas very few forms, they are oviparous forms. Affinities. Coming to the affinities, see here, peripatus has no economic importance, but it is zoologically very much important. It shows affinities with both annelids and arthropods, and as well as to some extent mollusks also. And in addition to these affinities with annelids and arthropods, it has some unique features also. So let us discuss first of all the affinities of peripatus with annelida. Now one by one. So first of all let us discuss the similarities first and then dissimilarities later. So we have discussed so far the detailed features of peripatus, otherwise onychophorans. Let us have a look on the affinities. What are the similarities with annelids? Let us have a look. Then first and foremost similarity is the onychophorans also have a worm-like body, that is a vermiform body, and a true head is absent. Because of the absence of neck, we can't differentiate the head from the remaining portion of the body, that is trunk. Then outer body covering is flexible cuticle. The cuticle is not hard, it is flexible, in the same way, in the same like that of the annelids. And the cuticle is followed by a dermomuscular body wall, and that is dermis is present. Below that muscular body wall, circular muscles and longitudinal muscles and transverse muscles are also present here, and that's why it is similarity. Then simple eyes and simple eyes like that of the palichids are also present here. Then the appendages are unjointed, and which are again stumpy, and like that is legs are stumpy like that of the parapodia. They resemble the parapodia of the polychaetes. Then the alimentary canal is also simple and straight. The slime and coxal glands correspond with the similar glands found in polychaetes. Then segmentally arranged paired nephridia is also a characteristic feature that is similar to the annelida. And presence of cilia in reproductive organs is also one more structure, one more similarity. And then the slow locomotion as in earthworm, you can see it is related to the annelid feature. Now coming to the differences, let us have a look at the differences or dissimilarities with the annelida. What are the dissimilarities? Now first and foremost dissimilarity is ventrally placed mouth, whereas in the annelids the mouth is terminal. Then there are clawed appendages. The appendages are clawed, that means they are provided with claws, whereas claws are completely absent in annelida. Presence of antennae are also absent here in the annelids, but whereas antennae are present in the onychophora. This is a dissimilarity. And ladder-like nervous system, which can't be seen in the case of the annelida. And tracheae for respiration, and this characteristic feature is resemblance of arthropoda, but it is no trachea are present in the case of annelida. Absence of external segmentation. So external segmentation is completely absent. Only transverse lines which cannot correspond to the segments can be seen in the body of the onychophorans. And the presence of hemocoel is also dissimilarity with that of the annelids. So these are the dissimilarities showing with the annelida. Now coming to the affinities with the arthropoda. What similarities shown by onychophorans with arthropods? Let us have a look. The first and foremost similarity with the arthropods is the chitinous cuticle. Though it is flexible, but chitin is present in the cuticle, and the molting done in the young ones. So the young ones undergo molting like that of the arthropoda. Then presence of antennae is a characteristic feature of most of the arthropods. Then jaws are modified appendages, then with striated muscles. So this is also characteristic feature of the arthropoda. Then locomotion by definite legs and provided with claws. So claws are also present and legs are also present in the case of arthropoda, though structurally there is a difference, but legs are definite number of legs are also present here. Then body cavity is also hemocoel in the case of onychophora as well as the arthropoda. Then next similarity is dorsal tubular heart provided with ostia. So same type of heart is present, and the heart is located in the pericardial sinus in the case of Onychophora as well as in the arthropods. Now coming to the excretory structure, the excretory structures are the nephridia. Of course, this the coelom is reduced to gonads, and coelom, especially the coelom is reduced, which is limited to the gonadial and excretory organs region. Then salivary glands which are modified nephridia here, which are present in the onychophorans. And then brain. When you come to the nervous system, the brain is large and typically arthropodan type, and the presence of trachea is also a respiratory presence of trachea as respiratory organs is the striking feature of most of the terrestrial arthropods, that is insects especially, and it is similar with the arthropods. And development is same as in arthropods, because the most of the arthropods, they develop through molting, and molting also takes place in the case of onychophorans. So these are the similarities with the arthropoda. Though they possess many similarities with the arthropoda, the onychophorans show dissimilarities with the arthropoda also. So let us have a look at it. So dissimilarities, first and foremost, dissimilarity with the arthropoda is indistinct segmentation. Segmentation is not distinct. Then a soft velvety skin is present. This is a dissimilarity with that of the arthropods, where the heart's exoskeletal structures are present in almost all the arthropods. Then antennae are not homologous, though antennae are present here, ringed like with many papillae are present here, whereas the antennae are showing somewhat dissimilar in the case of it's not similar in the case of arthropods. And there is a 3-segmented head in the onychophora, but head is 6-segmented in the case of most of the insects and other arthropods. Then tracheal arrangement shows difference. Trachea also distributed within the body in different manner when compared to the onychophora. Then irregular distribution of spiracles. Spiracles are distributed throughout the body, they spread indefinitely throughout the body, and they also open outside always, whereas the spiracles are at the definite positions in the arthropod body, and they are not open outside always. Then ventral nerve cords are widely separated in the case of the onychophora, whereas ventral nerve cords are their close proximity in the case of the arthropoda, and that's why in this respect they show dissimilarity. And these the ventral nerve cords are provided segmental ganglia in the case of arthropod, whereas this here in this onychophora true ganglia are absent. Then the simple eyes in the onychophora, simple eyes, unlike that of the arthropods, where compound eyes are present in most of the arthropods. Then unjointed numerous stumpy legs. Here unjointed numerous stumpy legs are present in the case of onychophora, whereas in all the arthropods jointed legs are main characteristic feature of the arthropods. So in these features it shows dissimilarities. So now we come to let us have a concluding remarks. That means before conclusion, let us have a look at the unique characters of onychophora, which do not present in any either of the phyla just now we have seen. So number one unique character of the onychophora is indistinct segmentation, then soft and velvety skin. All these structures are nowhere present in both Annelida and Arthropoda. These structures are absent. These features are absent. Then antennae with the spines. Antennae are provided with spines. Only one pair of jaws are present, whereas in the arthropods many pairs of jaws are present. And there is even in the annelids like leeches, jaws are many. Then these the jaws move from anterior to posterior angle. Presence of slime glands is the characteristic feature of onychophora. Arrangement of tracheae is also different in the case of onychophora, which cannot be seen in any other animals. Then numerous spiracles that spread over the body, and they are irregularly spread over the body, and they are always open. This is a characteristic feature of this onychophora. And there are two ventral nerve cords widely apart, and ladder-like appearance of the nervous system, because these two nerve cords at the level of the legs, they are innervated by the transverse nerves. Transverse nerves are also present, connecting the two ventral nerve cords throughout the length, giving a ladder-like appearance. So these are the unique characters of onychophora, which are not seen in the case of either in the Annelida and Arthropoda. So now, and at this junction, now we have seen so far the affinities with the annelids and affinities with the arthropods, and some of the affinities or similarities with the molluscans also. It resembles, onychophora shows some resemblance. So in all these discussions, after all these discussions, now where these onychophorans should be placed. Now onychophorans, they are neither completely annelids nor arthropods, but they show affinities with both the phyla. Affinities means not only similarities, but they show dissimilarities with both the phyla, and these represents an offshoot from the arthropod line. It appears to us like that it is an offshoot from the arthropod, because it has more arthropodal-like characteristic features when compared to the Annelida. So that's why it is almost tilting towards the arthropod. So Manton in 1970 and other scientists included this onychophora in the Arthropoda as a subphylum. And in this subphylum onychophora, only one class onychophora was there. But what about the characteristic features shown by the onychophora? It shows primary annelidan characters also. So we can't deny them. So that's why this dual nature of onychophora created difficulty in the classification. And to deviate or to solve this problem, most of the modern zoologists, they have upgraded this onychophora to an independent and separate phylum of invertebrates. Or anyway, this onychophora is now upgraded to independent and separate phylum of invertebrates, though it is regarded as one of the minor phyla. So this is about the complete picture of the onychophora, that is peripatus, and we have seen the structure and affinities. In the structure, it shows similarities and dissimilarities with the Annelida and as well as Arthropoda. It is and it can be regarded as this onychophora class, or whether it is a phylum or a class, whatever it may be. The group belongs to a very ancient one, and it has been changed from the Cambrian period, from where it might have originated from some marine forms, and it has been not changed much from that period. But slowly what happens is most of their number is reduced to so less number, and in only some areas it can be found. Earlier it was found in all the areas. It might have found in all areas, that is continuous distribution. Now it has coming to the discontinuous distribution, only limited to the southern hemisphere only. So that's why we need to protect them as far as possible. Thank you.